Let's bring in Brent Musburger, who the legendary broadcaster, and he's the lead broadcaster, managing editor at Vegas Stats and Information Network, and also he is the voice for the Las Vegas Raiders, hosting Miami on the Raiders Radio Network. Kickoff is at 4:05 Eastern coming up this Sunday. Brent, great to have you back. How are you?
I am fine. Dan, did you say you're giving a flask away?
Yes,
My man, you got to send me one of those flasks for a period on the Dan Patrick Show. You know what I'm saying? Hey, Mr. Brady, he doesn't mince words. I'm telling you, I hadn't heard that comment from him. I actually met him when Tom was a quarterback at Michigan. Very nice man, very loyal, obviously, to his son, as he should be. But that sounds like a good podcast. How are you, Danny?
I'm good. Do you think we'll ever get the true story of what happened in New England with Brady and Belichick?
I'm laughing because Belichick never tells you the true story about anything. I love him. I love him to death. Great coach. And honestly, I knew his father, who was in the United States. Listen, I'm so old, I know everybody's father. You know what the hell's going on here?
What was Abe Lincoln like, though, Brent? That's what.
Now, there was a guy from Illinois. You know what I'm saying? He could have been a power forward, that big fella.
What's different about the Raiders this year as opposed to previous years?
Gus Bradley. Great hire by John Gruden. Listen, John Gruden is as good an offensive mind, Dan, as I've been around. And he and Derek Carr, they've been together now throughout this tenure, and they really work well. They understand. Derek understands exactly what John wants to do. But the defense was atrocious, and they were not well coached. Now they are. Gus Bradley knows what he's doing. In fact, if you look down at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the big thing that they had going for them, yeah, sure, they had Tom Brady in the offense, but Todd Bowles took over that defense, and that, to me, that was the unit that won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The Chiefs couldn't do a thing against the Bulls. So now the Raiders have Bradley. We have a decent defensive line, which we haven't had. The key thing is not just that schematically he knows what he's doing and he knows these other. He knew talent, and talent came to Las Vegas, Dan, because they like Bradley. KJ Wright. Let's just take KJ Wright. He couldn't come to terms with the Seattle Seahawks on a contract, but he had played for Bradley up there, okay, when they were the Legion of Doom and Legion of Boom, I should say. And then so he signed, and he's one of our good linemen. Denzel Perryman turned loose by Carolina, couldn't beat out the youngster, and he wanted to play for Bradley again. You go on down the line, and the key thing here is the fact that I will tell you that when you look at the Buccaneers, and I've mentioned Tom Brady a lot of times, it's the fact that he could get players to come with him. Rob Gronkowski, Antonio Brown, and Leonard Fournette. It was Brady who reached out to them. There you find out if chemistry's good, if people enjoy playing for certain coaches or with certain players. And Bradley's been the big difference. That's why we're 2-0. But everybody's slow the roll. 2-0 doesn't mean anything. You know, our offensive line's got a number of injuries. It was a great win in Pittsburgh, except the Steelers were without defensive players, and they lost Watt in the first half. So, you know, it's 2-0. Yeah, it's very nice. And they turned around after a Monday night, traveled 3 time zones and won the game. But you still got to win going forward. You know, in the NFL, you've been around a long time, and nothing lasts forever in that league. So we shall see. It's a great start. It's fun for the organization. The kids seem to be really good kids. They seem to enjoy playing with each other, and we'll see what happens.
Why do you think Derek Carr doesn't get the attention that he should?
Well, largely when the media makes up its mind about something or somebody, they're very reluctant to change it. And he has struggled at times, and they haven't had a winning team. He's not flashy. He doesn't give you that great soundbite all the time. But I've been around. He's a solid individual. Okay, I don't know of anybody I'd rather have right here who's available. You know, obviously there's Hall of Fame quarterbacks out there that'd be good. But I think Dan, I think the media made up its mind early on, and so it's difficult to change their mind. He have to win and get in the playoffs and make a decent run. He's not, you know. He's not a Lamar Jackson. I mean, he's not going to take over a game with electric plays and things like that. And I'll tell you, nobody's throwing the ball any better in the NFL right now than he is.
Talking to Brent Musburger, lead broadcaster, managing editor at Vegas Stats and Information Network. With how much information can you have that you can make what you would consider an educated bet?
What a good question. Everybody decides when you're a gambler, as I am, recreationally, and full disclosure, we're 2 weeks into the contest at Circa here in Las Vegas, where you pick 5 games against the spread, Dan, every week. And I'm 500, 5-5. We had about 4,000 entries. We got about 100 entries, and I can't believe it, that are 10-0. I can't believe anybody is 10-0 against the spread. I think everybody has things that they make their final decision on. I'm kind of driven by injuries, and especially cluster injuries, especially the offensive lines that I look at. You can never have. You still have to be lucky. Okay, I want to throw that out. There is no magic formula. Listen, if you're a $20 bettor with your friend, or you bet dinner or something, you can have fun. That's a great question, and there's no magic formula. Before you called this morning, I honestly was just kind of quickly glancing down some of the lines, and I see that the early line was that the Raiders were going to be a point and a half. This was before they played in Pittsburgh, point and a half favored over Miami, and I see now that they're 3.5. The bookies adjust those numbers based upon what they think the public is going to do. And so obviously they think that the public's going to be betting on the Raiders as the week goes on. I guess I'm a little surprised at how the league has embraced it so quickly, gambling, that is, on the games, after being opposed to it for so long. I mean, my goodness, I can't watch ESPN or anybody without seeing a scroll down below with a number on it, over, under, and everything.
But when you did the NFL Today with Jimmy the Greek, did you ever hear from Commissioner Rozelle about being a little too overt with the gambling?
This is a very good story, because when we, Bob Wessler, and there were only, Pete Rozelle had an attorney with him, and we went over to his office with Jimmy, Bob, and myself. So there were 5 of us in the room, only 5 of us in the room. And I knew that Pete Rozelle loved to bet horses, because I would see him at Aqueduct and Belmont from time to time. Wellington Merrill was always with him. So I knew that he understood gambling and was aware of it. And I was pretty sure he'd be all in on the Greek, and he was. It was really a nice conversation. But toward the end, and we were there upwards of an hour, he looked at us and he said, listen, I have only one request to make. And every one of us, that's 3 from being from CBS, knew that when Pete Rozelle asked us for one request, it wasn't any request. This is how it was going to be done. He said, I don't want you to say -3 or +7 or -10. But otherwise, go ahead, talk about it. And I thought to myself, my heart sunk. I said, oh, my goodness, how do you do this without saying that? And it was on the walk back to CBS that the Greek and Bob and I decided to try the checkboard, and that people would understand that if all the checks were lined up on one side, it was going to be a big win, okay, and you could go ahead. But if it was like, back and forth, this team's offense is better than that other team's defense, then down by the 3, or maybe you want to jump on the underdog and things like that. So we used that, and to tell you the truth, Rozelle never, ever complained about anything. He was always very, very nice, very, very complimentary to the Greek. The only time that I ever got a call, but it never came from the NFL, it always came from CBS, and was at the end of the NFC Championship. We were then the NFC network at CBS. But at any rate, I would always ask the Greek, call your buddies in Vegas, give me the line for the Super Bowl. And I always had it going forward. I always knew what it was going to be, depending upon who would win the game. And I would throw it out at the end, because I always thought people were interested in the number, whether they gambled or not. And I knew I was going to get a call on Monday morning. Curtis, you can't do that, Brent. You can't. And oh, my goodness, I forgot. I'm sorry. I apologize. And then next year, I do it all over again. You know what I'm saying, my man?
I saw where there's a book out on the NFL Today, the show that you started back in the
Yeah.
70s. I think it's called You're Looking Live. Are you aware that there's a book on the history of the NFL Today show on CBS?
No, I know nothing about it, to tell you the truth. So I'm assuming that I'm going to get quit. Hey, listen, I know you have no clue about even who wrote it, but if the dude sends me a free copy, I might read it.
Okay, but how much drama was there back then that they're going to write a book about it?
Well, there was drama certainly between the Greek and Phyllis George. There's no doubt about that. Okay, because we only had 22 minutes of content, Dan, and the Greek was always pissed if he thought he wasn't getting enough time, or I was paying too much attention to Phyllis. And thank God for Irv Cross, by the way. My goodness, he was Mr. Stability. Of course, I knew him from being with him at Northwestern when he played for Era Parsegan. A lot of people don't realize that Era started Miami of Ohio, came to Northwestern before he ever went to Notre Dame and became a Catholic. Can you imagine that? There's my favorite Presbyterian coach at Northwestern, and he became a Catholic. No, Era was a great friend of mine. Later became a broadcaster with it. But I honestly know nothing about the book. And in fact, your producer, I didn't even know there was one coming out until he just told me in a text. So I don't. But who knows? Maybe somebody ran into me over a couple of whiskeys, and I don't know.
Well, they talk about, I guess, a post-show altercation with you and the Greek where he took a swing at you.
No. Oh yeah, baby. I do remember. My brother was sitting we were in a booth, and the Greek was hacked about the lack of time, and he came in alone, and obviously he'd had other watering hole before he came to this one, and he threw a punch at me. But listen, it was like he tapped me on the back, to tell you the truth. But my brother dove across the table after the Greek, and the Greek backed up to the bar, grabbed a bottle. They used to give it, and he smashed the bottle like the old time saloon fight. He'd smash the bottle right there. The smartest guy in the room, Dan, by far the smartest guy in the room was the bartender. He turned the lights off. It plunged the entire place into darkness. Okay, so by the time the flashlights came out, people were at opposite ends of the room, and that was it. It was over and done. And so I got home. I was commuting between L.A. at the time. I was working with Connie Chung on the news, and Van Gordon Sauter was in the head of CBS Sports. He called, "I'm going to fire that son of a bitch. I'm going to fire him." I said, "Hold on, my man." I said, because I didn't want blood on my hands over that. So I said, "Let me call you back." So when I talked to my wife, I had a few coffees, sat there and thought about it. I said, "Van," I called him back. I said, "Van, no." I said, "I don't want the Greek fired." I said, "Let me think about something, and we'll get this done." And so I went to Bob Arum, who was a buddy, and got my hands on some boxing gloves and a bell, and we opened the show, and life. It was more like a couple of brothers having a fight than a couple of antagonists, to tell you. Oh yeah, but that was a hell of a night at that saloon, I'll tell you that.
It's great to hear your voice. Congrats on your Raiders, and thanks for joining us as always, Brent.
Thanks for checking in, Dan. You and the guys take care. Talk to you soon. Thanks, guys.
That's Brent Musburger. Got the Raiders and the Dolphins. That's Sunday at 4:05 Eastern, Raiders Radio Network.